It is said that there are more than 138 pyramids on Earth, and not one of them tells you its true purpose. Archaeologists have been giving the same answer for centuries: tomb. But think about it. Does it really make sense that a civilization capable of engineering the greatest marvels in history, cutting thousands of tons of granite with millimeter precision, would go through all that effort just to bury their dead? I don't think so. What if these structures were never tombs at all? What if the reason not a single mummy has ever been found inside them is that they were built for something else entirely? And what if that something else is still out there today, buried, silenced, sealed, waiting for you in the middle of the greatest cover-up in history? If you're ready, let's begin. Look at the Giza Plateau. Touch that massive granite box in what they call the King's Chamber, the so-called sarcophagus, and you'll find it completely empty. No lid, no inscription, no bones, not a single trace. Official archaeology explains this away as a robbed tomb. But that same chamber was found completely sealed when it was first discovered. Never entered, never touched. Nothing had been taken. It was never prepared for anyone. Now take a step back and reimagine the pyramid entirely, not as a tomb, but as a machine. A massive machine, positioned above water, connected to underground water sources, built from millions of tons of stone. During the time the pyramids were constructed, Egypt's Nile Delta looked very different from today. Underground water levels were extremely high, and the shafts beneath the Great Pyramid extended directly down to the water table. Official reports brushed this off as coincidence. But an engineer, a hydrology expert, looks at this structure and sees something different: a pump system. And not just any pump, a terminal node powering Tartaria's global energy grid, a coordinated worldwide system. A remarkable system. If you've heard the name Tartaria, you know what it means. If you haven't, here's what you need to know. A civilization clearly visible on 19th century maps, spread across a vast geography stretching from Asia to Europe. Then, suddenly, it vanished. Erased from maps. Removed from books. Never included in school curricula. Dozens of history books predating the 1800s were quietly pulled from libraries and destroyed at the turn of the century. This is not a conspiracy theory, it is a documented fact. So what did this civilization leave behind? A grid. An energy infrastructure powered by water, interconnected, spanning continents. And the terminal points of that grid, the very heart of its energy production, were these pyramids we mistakenly called tombs. Go back to 1896. Right beneath Niagara Falls, construction crews discovered something unexpected: hidden chambers, interconnected channels, and tunnels that were clearly excavated with a purpose. The official explanation came quickly. Natural formations, they said, and just like always, the matter was closed. But portions of the reports leaked out. The size of those chambers, the way their walls were carved, their positioning, all of it was far too systematic to be explained by natural formation. Niagara is recorded as the first place in modern history where water power was harnessed for large-scale energy production. But was it truly the first time, or was it a rediscovery? Because at that very same time, Tesla was right there. And in Tesla's notebooks, there are references that have never been fully explained to this day. Ancient systems, prior structures that used the frequency of the Earth. How did Tesla know this? Where had he learned it? Now come back to the pyramids. There is a field called hydroacoustic engineering. When water is passed through certain geometric structures, pressure differentials are created. When those differentials are channeled correctly, they produce mechanical energy, which is, in fact, the basic operating principle of modern turbines. And when you examine the internal channels of the Great Pyramid, that is exactly what you find: interconnected shafts, geometric chambers, passageways that slow and accelerate water flow. What have been labeled ventilation shafts? were actually optimized not for air, but for water flow. There were engineers who said exactly this. They published their findings. Then they were silenced, shut down, their careers ended, their papers retracted. But the physical evidence is still out there, and you're looking at it right now. Think about the closed tunnel networks beneath San Francisco, listed in official records as unused infrastructure, yet their connection points lead to buildings that were never constructed. Think about Berlin's underground heating grid, dating back to the 19th century, operating more efficiently than today's systems. Its origins and design are still unknown and disputed. Think about Amsterdam's sealed waterways. Each of these is presented separately as a historical remnant. But when you see them all together, when you place them all on a single map, you begin to see the traces of a grid. And that grid didn't operate from the surface, it operated from the depths, powered by water. And the pyramids were the grid's largest, most visible, most fortified terminal. So why did the tomb story stick so well, and why was everyone made to believe it? Because there is no better way to send people into a structure than to tell them in advance what they're looking for. Say, tomb, and everyone searches for a sarcophagus, an inscription, bones. When they find nothing, they say, it was robbed, and walk away. But say, pump, and you start looking like an engineer. You look at the shafts, the channels, you notice the water impermeability of the granite surfaces, you question the base's relationship to the underground water. And then other questions follow. Why were these stones cut with such precision? Why do these chambers have such incredible acoustics? Why do these shafts run parallel not to specific star positions, but to specific underground water flows? Systematic relabeling, rebranding, is the most powerful tool of concealment. Those who branded the pyramids as tombs were actually keeping you from asking these questions, from questioning and discovering the truth. Until now. And now we come to the real question: why was this grid shut down? The answer is the same as the answer to why Tesla was silenced. Free, decentralized, uncontrollable energy cannot be the foundation of a commercial order. If the pyramids truly were terminals producing energy through water power, and if that energy was distributed to all the cities of the Tartarian civilization, those glowing, pre-Tesla illuminated metropolises, then the power that destroyed or seized this system became the holder of the greatest energy monopoly in history. And that monopoly continues to this day. The true purpose of the pyramids was covered up because that purpose is still dangerous. Because if we understand that the pyramids were water pumps, the next question becomes unavoidable. Are they still operating? And who controls them? Sooner or later, we will find the answers to these questions.